Ever notice how we tend to think political parties, especially on big issues, like they all agree?
Yeah, like one big voice, one big opinion.
Right. Well, get ready to be surprised. Today, we're looking at something happening down in Florida.
Oh, yeah, this one is interesting.
It's some serious disagreement, and it's all happening within the Republican Party, no less. It really makes you stop and think, you know, about those assumptions we were just talking about.
Absolutely. And what makes this even more fascinating is how public it all is.
You said it. We're talking about Ron DeSantis, the governor of Florida.
A guy who, for many people, is basically the poster child for conservative politics.
Exactly. And yet, he's running into some major pushback from his own party right there in the Florida legislature.
Strong disagreements, very much out in the open.
It's all centered around this. DeSantis is calling for a special legislative session. It's time to happen right after President Trump's inauguration. And the goal, to speed up, to really accelerate the deportation of immigrants in Florida.
Wow, setting a strong tone right off the bat.
Yeah, no kidding. And the source we're using to untangle all this is a transcript from the Ring of Fire, their YouTube channel, and they really dig into this whole situation.
So where are we going with this deep dive? What's the plan?
Our goal today is to go deeper than those quick headlines you see everywhere. We want to figure out what's really behind this Republican standoff in Florida. What are the motivations? What are the real-world effects this could have? Because trust me, this isn't just some political show. This has real consequences.
Real consequences for real people.
Absolutely. And when you zoom out and look at the bigger picture, this situation tells us something crucial. Even in parties that seem totally unified, you're going to find disagreements, especially when you're dealing with tough, complex issues like immigration.
Issues that have so many layers.
It forces us to look beyond the simple labels. We have to look deeper, consider all the different factors that are at play here.
Absolutely. See the nuance.
Okay, so let's focus on DeSantis' plan. According to our source, his intention was crystal clear. He wants to help the incoming Trump administration. Specifically, he wants to help them make good on those promises of a swift crackdown on immigration.
So full speed ahead on those campaign promises.
Exactly. And DeSantis really stressed that state and local officials need to cooperate, need to get on board with enforcing those federal immigration laws.
Makes sense, but it's interesting considering the history between those two.
Right. DeSantis and Trump. Remember, they were rivals once, battling it out during the presidential primaries. So there's an extra layer here, an extra bit of intrigue to DeSantis suddenly taking this very collaborative stance.
It makes you wonder, is this really just about policy? Or is there some strategy at play here, some political maneuvering on DeSantis's part?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? And here's the thing. DeSantis didn't just talk the talk. He's got concrete plans. He's proposed actual legislation that would give local officials more responsibilities. And a key part of that is providing them with the funding to handle those new responsibilities.
So he's putting money where his mouth is, so to speak.
Exactly. But here's where it gets really interesting, even a little bit tense. Our source says that DeSantis also threatened to suspend local law enforcement officials if they don't fall in line with these new mandates.
Whoa, that escalated quickly.
And this isn't some empty threat. Our source reminds us that DeSantis has done this before. He suspended elected prosecutors who disagreed with him on policy.
That's a bold move.
It is. And it raises some fundamental questions. What's the balance of power between the state and local governments? Can governor force locally elected officials to do what he wants?
Right. What are the limits of that power?
It really gives you a glimpse into how DeSantis leads, how willing he is to use his executive authority.
Yeah, his style of leadership for sure.
So you'd think that other Florida Republicans would be jumping on board, right? Especially with Trump back in the White House.
You'd expect a chorus of yes.
Exactly. But that is not what happened. The Republican president of the Florida Senate and the Republican leader of the State House, they released a joint statement. And they did not hold back.
I'm sensing some drama.
Oh, there's drama, all right.
Yeah.
Our source says they called DeSantis' plans completely irresponsible and ill-timed. That's not exactly subtle language in the world of politics.
Not at all. It's a pretty direct and public rebuke. What do you think sparked such a strong reaction?
Well, they went out to explain their concerns. They're worried that what DeSantis is proposing could actually hurt Trump's own plans on immigration. They think it could impair or impede Trump's upcoming efforts to, as they put it, end illegal immigration.
So basically they're saying DeSantis is jumping the gun and maybe messing things up for the federal government?
Exactly. It's like they're saying, hold your horses, Ron. Let's wait and see what Trump's plan is before we go charging in. It's an argument for a more careful, coordinated approach.
This suggests there are some different strategic visions within the party. Maybe these legislative leaders prefer a more measured approach, where the federal government sets the stage, lays the groundwork for immigration enforcement. Makes you wonder if they knew something about Trump's plans that DeSantis didn't.
Or maybe their concerns were about something else entirely.
Like what?
Well, our source points to the economic realities of Florida. You can't talk about immigration in Florida without talking about the economy.
It's a huge part of the picture. Florida has a big immigrant population, and they're vital to some of the state's most important industries.
Our source draws a direct line between immigrant labor and the health of Florida's economy. This isn't some abstract policy debate. We're talking about real jobs, real livelihoods.
High stakes.
Absolutely. The source specifically mentions hospitality, agriculture, think the citrus industry, and fishing. They say that if DeSantis gets his way, it could kill the top 3 industries in Florida. They even say it could cripple the economy of the whole state.
Yeah, strong words.
Think about how huge those industries are in Florida. The disruption, the chaos a swift crackdown could cause.
Yeah.
It's mind-boggling.
It highlights a tension that always comes up in immigration debates. Tougher enforcement sounds good to some, but it can have huge unintended consequences.
Right.
And those consequences often hit labor markets and specific industries hard. Policymakers have this tough balancing act. They want their policies to work, but they also have to deal with the economic realities on the ground.
And that's where the Republican lawmakers' hesitation comes in, at least according to our source. It doesn't sound like they disagree with stricter immigration enforcement in principle. What they're worried about is the immediate impact on Florida's economy. They're afraid of the damage it could cause.
So it's not about the what of the policy, it's about the how. The speed, the potential fallout.
Exactly. They seem to be putting the state's economic well-being first.
Practical concerns over ideological purity, perhaps?
Oh.
Maybe. Now, the Ring of Fire, they offer some thoughts on the motivations behind all of this. They suggest that DeSantis is pushing for this special session to get on Trump's good side. They even use the phrase "suck up to Trump," which is a little blunt, but you get the idea.
It's a cynical take, but it does fit with how a lot of people see politics, you know?
Right. Align yourself with someone powerful, someone like the new president, and it can really benefit you politically.
Open doors, create opportunities.
Now, when it comes to the Republican lawmakers, the Ring of Fire sees their stance as a smart decision. But they think the main reason behind it is economic. They think these lawmakers are more concerned with protecting those key Florida industries than with opposing DeSantis' policies on principle.
It's an interesting thought. Maybe good things can come from self-interest.
Unintended consequences, but positive ones this time.
Right. It's also interesting that the Ring of Fire, they're actually praising these Republican lawmakers, even though they think those lawmakers' motives are mostly about the economy.
It really shows how complicated politics can be. You get these unexpected alliances forming, even when people don't agree on everything. Shared interests can bring people together in surprising ways.
So let's sum up what we've learned. The main takeaway here is that we're seeing a Republican governor facing serious pushback from his own party. And this isn't happening behind closed doors. It's very public.
And it's happening on a major policy issue: immigration. This is not a united front, not by a long shot.
And what makes this conflict even more striking is that DeSantis and Trump are often seen as being on the same page politically.
They're both seen as conservatives.
Exactly. But this situation shows that even within a movement, within a party, there can be big differences when it comes to how to approach specific policies.
And we can't forget the real-world consequences. Florida's economy relies heavily on immigrants, especially in certain industries. The decisions being made here, they're going to have a real impact. This isn't just theoretical.
It's about people's lives, their livelihoods.
Absolutely. And lastly, it's crucial to think about the motivations on each side. It's possible DeSantis is trying to get closer to Trump politically. On the other hand, the Republican lawmakers, they seem to be worried about the economic impact on Florida. Those competing motivations are at the heart of this whole conflict.
They're driving the tension, the disagreement.
So here's a question for everyone listening. What does this fight within the Florida Republican Party tell us? What does it reveal about the relationship between immigration policy, political ambitions, and the economy?
It's complicated, that's for sure.
It suggests that even when there's general agreement on a goal, like stricter immigration enforcement, putting that goal into practice can be really tough, especially when you have powerful economic interests and different priorities within the same political group.
Right, everyone wants something different.
It makes you think about the long-term consequences. What happens when politicians prioritize quick political wins over the stability of important parts of the economy?
Do those wins come at a cost? Who pays that cost?
It raises some really important questions about the costs and benefits of political decisions. And it makes us think about who those decisions really affect, not just in the headlines, but in the real world.
Exactly. Food for thought.